Hi guys, welcome to our YouTube channel. This is Astrid and OJ. Thank you so much for your support, for all the views and all the subscriptions you guys are doing. Keep it up that high spirit. So
It's been quite nice.
yeah, it's been really quite nice, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So today we just wanted to make a small video related to the previous video that we did about the visa, just maybe like to explain what visa we got and like why we're so excited, and then how to go forward from there.
So yeah, because you know, living in Kenya as a foreigner, you need to have we usually have different type of visas. So we have there's a visitor's visa, there's a multiple entry visa, there's a residence visa, there's a work visa, there's also a visa when you get married. So all those are the kind of visas that you can get when you come to Kenya, and the process sometimes it can be very stressful because of the long waiting, and also how sometimes the officers just can be a bit ignorant. And so yeah, we've been going through that experience. So on this episode, we just want to go deeper into the matter, and also just to give out more information for those people who maybe are trying to do the same, or you know, like you want to move to Kenya. What are the things to go about and look up to when you actually going through this process? Yeah.
I think so. For me, since I'm from Mauritius, I'm allowed to, like, there's not a lot of countries in Kenya who can, but with my visa, with my passport, I'm allowed to come in the country, like visit for 3 months, without needing a visa. So that's what we've been doing.
And that's a visitor's visa, just to be precise.
That's a visitor visa, but I just don't need to apply for a visitor's visa, like for example I know people from Europe need to do. So I came in March, and then after that I went to Mauritius 2 months later. So when I came back, it renewed that 3 months, and then I think it was in September, we went to spend a week in Rwanda, and to come back. But it was very stressful when I came back, because like at the border they were asking a lot of questions. So it was very tricky.
It was about, oh, you're cheating the system, you're not meant to be this country. Actually, when we were in the Uganda border, one of the officers, because they're giving us a lot of troubles, was like, oh, I think you should just go to Ugandan airport and take your flight to Mauritius instead of you coming into Kenya. So it was a very tricky situation.
But then we were able to explain the situation, and also explain that I came out of the country, because also sometimes what is tricky is the information that we get is very different depending on who you talk to. So the first time we talked to someone from the immigration, that was back in March, they said as long as I leave the country and come back, this is completely fine.
And it doesn't matter, because they actually said even if you live in the country, you live out of the country for 2 days, when you come back your passport is stamped, and she's allowed to be here for 6 months, not even 3 months. She's allowed to do 3 months and renew another 3 months for free. She actually doesn't need to pay. So it was very complicated. You know?
But I think also sometimes what happens is just as a foreigner on a visitor's visa, you're allowed to be in the country for a maximum of 6 months at a time. And so since I was going to surpass that, then they got annoyed, which is like completely normal. But since we explained our situation, they had a lot of empathy, so it was good. I could come in.
And just to say, even though they accepted her to come in, we actually had to bribe them. Of course, it's something that happens a lot here in terms of having services to from the government. But this one was one of those we didn't. There was no way we could have actually ran away from it. Personally, I'm not that particular person who loves bribe, but for this particular one, because she was meant to come in. So
I think it's also because we take advantage. So if I was at the airport, I wouldn't get any issue. But since it was like in a border, on the road, and it's way easier. But I got in, and this time, thankfully, everything went very smoothly. So what's happening is I'm gonna leave in January, because anyway I wouldn't be able to renew my visa, and I'm gonna go back to Mauritius, which is why we're gonna go back to distance until I figure something out. And so that's why we're like, it was in September, so September I had until December. So that's where we were trying to apply, but it was a very long journey. We had to 3 days in a row we had
Yeah.
to go to the immigration office because the system is down during the day, it only works at night. So we went one morning and they were like, oh, you didn't print a paper. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna print the piece of paper and I'm gonna come back tomorrow. We went back the next morning and then they took my passport. They were looking at it, but it came back and they said, oh, I didn't put all the information.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened on the system, but at some point between all of that, my information was removed. So I had to, it's just like pictures of my passport and pictures of like passport picture.
I think that the mistake on when we were applying for the visitors extension is that they had put clear that you have to put two passport pictures, and as you had just did one because we didn't understand what do they mean. Like if you just upload it one.
That was not it. Is when I went back on the system, the passport picture was not on it.
Okay.
So the system had removed it at some point.
Okay.
So that's why they didn't see it because it was not there. Even though I had uploaded it, I think the next day probably now it got cancelled. Yeah,
but also in terms of just putting the things they had requested us to put, we hadn't. In terms of the pictures, we just put one. That was also my point. Also, you know, the government portal was very slow at day, so that's why we had to keep on coming back home, doing it at night, doing that often. Because if it was something that we could have handled in a day, it could have been just easier. But since the system is down during the day, it actually frustrates a lot of people because you'll have to do back and forth.
And it's not like it's very close, and we have to wake up. But it's not far, but still wake up early
because of the queue
and all of that stuff. So we'd rather arrive there early. So like that when it's just opening, there's less people.
Yeah.
But that means we have to wake up like around 6 or things like that, which is fine. But 3 days in a row, at some point you just like, oh, is this actually gonna work? Like, am I gonna get it? Because the very stressful situation for us at that point was if it's not accepted,
you only have 10 days.
I had to leave in like 10 days.
Yeah.
And so obviously I don't want to spend my 10 last days here with
stressing
Jay,
about how I'm gonna get home.
And spending my whole time in town. So but it worked out, so it was really exciting.
Yes.
I kept following, like, where's my passport? Is it with him? Did he stamp? Oh my god, the paper didn't come back. Is that a good sign? Not good sign.
Yeah.
But they stamped it, and I keep saying like it's the prettiest stamp so far on my passport because like of what it means. So that means now they gave me an extra 2 months. So I'm allowed to stay until end of January. Yeah. But I'm probably gonna leave more at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. So for me, those particular days that we didn't have the passport, it was very difficult, you know, because you're so much restless, you don't know the outcome. So
I was not sleeping.
It was one of the most, like, it's so stressful because you don't know the outcome, and at this time, you just walk in the door of the immigration, you give a security person your passport and your paper, and it's them who take it to the officer. You don't know what they're gonna do with it. Are they gonna reject you? Are they gonna give you? So
and also when you try to talk to them,
they're so arrogant.
They are very like the second day where they said, "Oh, you're missing information."
Yeah.
For me, I knew that the night before I had put everything. So I was like, "What do you mean?" Yeah. I put everything. They were like, "No, this is missing." And while they were talking to me, they were not looking at me once. They had earphones, so listening to something else at the same time. So it was just very stressful, the whole situation. Because one of the things as well where, for me, that was not the goal. Well, for us, that was not the goal. The goal was for me to be able to stay here. But to get a job in Kenya, you need to have a working visa. And to be able to have a working visa, you need to get employed. Yeah. So it's a very vicious loop that is very complicated, which is completely normal. Like, it's like that in any countries. Like if you're not from there. But here it's very complicated. So one of the reasons is they say that they protect the work to prioritize Kenyans. However, there's not even jobs for Kenyans.
There's not enough work for Kenyans.
Yeah, so it's been very tricky. So I think that's one of the, I guess, struggles that we've been going through lately of just trying to contact people, trying to apply for jobs, or like email people. So I've been doing that ever since March. So that's why now I have to obviously go back home because you've got
an opportunity there, and maybe that would help for this season, you know.
And in the hope that now maybe he can come to Mauritius and get that job in Mauritius. So the same thing, but reverse.
Just in reverse. So see, maybe for me it's gonna be easier rather new how you stayed here, it was a bit difficult. Yeah, so I think for me, just to also just advise for someone who's planning to move in Kenya, just have your plans right, because if you don't sort out the visa situation, it's very tricky. If you're coming to visit, that's okay, but if you want to come and work or stay in Kenya, just do it before you come to Kenya, because the situation is very tricky. So,
and even that, sometimes it can be tricky,
yeah,
because sometimes they want to know the person first, or
yeah,
like, I think it's just a case by case, because I'm sure a lot of people got a job when they were here.
Yeah, but a lot of foreigners that we have in Kenya, majority of
came
them
from outside.
Majority of them came, they were
Because
actually
they already
referred
got-
to work here,
Yeah.
or they were asked, would you want to if they have a branch here, so they're being brought into Africa.
Yeah.
So also a lot of foreigners that we have in Kenya, most of them, a lot of them work with churches, so they're sort of like missionaries. So if you're not a missionary, maybe it's your work that brought you here, so that's really good with you, because they're gonna sort everything out, your visa, where you're gonna stay, and all those things.
Yeah.
So if you're planning to move in Kenya, please find a job first. If you don't have a job, Kenya is very expensive in terms of commodities, and also just spending and also as a foreigner, you can't just live anywhere. Depending on what you're doing, you probably need to live in a proper high-end place because of your security. And I'm not saying that it's a risky place, but at least for you to feel safe.
It's just for comfort.
Yeah, just safety. And also just how people look at foreigners. You know, there's this assumption when they see a white person, they automatically know they have money.
But then if you know people, it's okay. It's like me, I could live anywhere with Jim, because they will know who I am with him.
Yeah, if you have a black, if you have an African partner, then that's a different story. You guys can live anywhere because you have at least someone to protect you, or even
maybe it's someone that has been here for a long time. But yeah.
But also I think we have foreigners who live in the slums.
Yeah, but
just maybe because they're doing volunteering jobs and stuff like that. So they're all known with the community.
It depends on your background and how you're coming, I think.
Yeah. And also I think also what you believe in.
And also what's your interest to come and visit, to be honest.
Yeah, because
if it's like in Ngong, it's like in Ngong, where there's people volunteering in an orphanage, so they're living there, but they have like the whole setup there. So it's quite a lot of people. It's the same as obviously, like you said, people living in the slums, and it's with organizations, so maybe with their partners or things like that. So I think it's just a case-to-case scenario, but just in general, I guess.
So also other options that people live in Kenya is through marriage. So I think marriage visa, it's called like it's a dependent. No, I think
it's a dependent visa, but I think you get an alien card at the same time.
But also you're not allowed to work.
Yeah, so because we thought that, because we anyway want to get married at some point, so it was definitely something that was on the topic. But I think it's also, when we talk about it, it's not really the way we want it to happen. I don't want to. I know I want to marry him, but I don't want to rush into it of just, it's not even a rush, but just, I just want to get married for a piece of paper, especially knowing that this is not going to help me in a sense where I will be allowed to stay in the country, but it won't give me a right to work. So it's not going to solve my problem of trying to get experience or trying to get anything that is interesting for me. But if you do have any tips, if you know anyone, a good contact that maybe like this is my luck, please let me know. Or if you have heard of other options, because like I said, everyone is giving. Also, there's a lot of foreigners here, so all the time we were like, how are they all doing? Because surely some of them are not married, some of them maybe are not even working, but they just have a right to stay. Because I think if I had the right to stay without thinking of traveling back and forth, it would have been easier to just now make a plan or do something, find ways, because we've been doing a lot of craft work or woodwork to sell, or even he's a chef, so I could always just jump in and help on that side. Or now also being able to volunteer for me to get experience in psychology, or even get a job at some point, which is going to be like, we can sponsor you. But it's very, very tricky, but it's very tricky everywhere. It's the same as in the UK. Recently I had got a job offer, but they said the same thing, that they couldn't sponsor me, so that was retracted, which is why now I'm turning obviously to the most obvious place, which is home, because I don't need any papers to live there except my nationality. So yeah. We just wanted to explain a bit that video. So it's just the journey behind and why we're so excited, and the trip that we've done it like 3 days in a row. So it's just us working from home, taking the public transport, arriving to the immigration office, and then this time it was stamped, so it was a great day.
So guys, that's the information that we had about this situation. Until next time we meet again, this is Astrid and
OJ
YouTube channel. Subscribe, like and share. Bye.